Yeah. You gotta work. You gotta work, grind, shine, it's mine. Gotta show everybody it's my time. Getting here, you gotta work, grind, shine. Never mind who talking down, cause they lying. Don't talk, you gotta work.
Welcome to Let's Talk with Carl Lee, where sports, culture, and community intersect. Join Carl and frequent co-host Hollis Lewis as they dive into engaging conversations with guests from all walks of life. Let's Talk is proudly presented by attorney Frank Walker. Real talk, real experience, real results. FrankWalkerLaw.com. Let the conversation begin on Let's Talk.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Let's Talk with Carl Lee. Let's Talk is proudly presented by attorney Frank Walker. Real talk, real experience, real results. You can visit Frank Walker at FrankWalkerLaw.com for more information. You can also catch Let's Talk with Carl Lee every Sunday at 1 p.m. and Thursday at 7 p.m. on 580 WCHS. If you've missed any of the episodes, you can easily go back and find those at WCHSnetwork.com/Let's Talk. You can also follow us on Facebook at Let's Talk with Carl Lee for all updates and more. Now, today's show, I have a unique opportunity to speak to a former Viking teammate, and I have to say he's a friend as well. But he's also a 2024 NFL Hall of Fame nominee, Henry Thomas. Hank, as I know him, was drafted in the third round from LSU in 1987, and he made an immediate impact with the Vikings as nose tackle in his rookie season. He played with the Vikings from 1987 to 1994. Then he would go on to play with the Lions from 95 to 96. He finished his career with the New England Patriots from 1997 to 2000. After a 14-year career, 14-year career in the NFL, he finished his career with 93.5 sacks and over 1,000 tackles. That's going to be questionable. I'm going to ask a little bit about that when I get him on air. So let me bring in right now Henry Thomas, and you'll hear me call him Hank from here on out probably because I can't help it. Hank, happy to have you on the show, man. What's going on?
Hey, I'm happy to be on the show. That was a pretty good introduction there you gave me.
Well, you know.
You left some stuff out. Like, you were supposed to say started for 14 years. Was a starter for all 14 years of my playing career. That was at least a couple of years in a row I had over 100 tackles. And I'm surprised that you would even doubt that.
Ladies and gentlemen, again, just so I can take you back, Hank and I played in Minnesota together. We also, believe it or not, we had a show there that we were doing every week. I don't know how long we did that show, Hank, but we have a unique relationship, which is basically bringing each other down or trying not to give them their proper due. But because he's going to be on the show and a lot of people here in West Virginia, I want to make sure that I give him his props. But one of the things you won't have to worry about, he will not shy away from giving himself his props. So, all right, so Hank, here's one of my first questions, and I want to touch on the Hall of Fame. The emotions of the Hall of Fame when you first heard about it. What did that feel like for the public who ends up hearing about the person who's in or may not know all the people who get nominated? What is that feeling like?
Well, you were there with me the first time I heard it, and I'd been nominated maybe 3 weeks before and had no idea until someone we're at an appearance together and someone was saying, Hall of Fame, and I was like, okay, cool, yeah, one day soon. And then when he actually introduced me as a Hall of Fame nominee, I was like, come on, bro, you taking the jack a little far here. And he goes, no. And he took the phone out and showed me. And that's when I had to turn to you and say, look, man, I can't hang with you no more. I'm a nominee.
Yeah, I think that was the day that our friendship we had a little bit of a divide in our friendship because I wasn't a Hall of Famer and you were a nominee, so that separated us a little bit.
The feeling for it was outstanding to see it. And then to actually look at the list of defensive linemen I was going against, I rapidly knew that maybe the next nominee I might have a better shot. But it was still an honor and just really, really exciting to be even, I'm in the game. So that my name is in in the thralls of being possibly considered as a Hall of Famer.
And again, I'm on a serious note. I'm obviously I could be very biased because I played behind Hank and we had a relationship. The D line, which was a great one. Chris Dolman was on that D line. Keith Millard was on that D line. Al Noga, a whole host of other people. At one point, I think Johnny Randall joined that group.
Yes.
And so it was clear to me how good our D-line was. It was clear to me because at the end of the day, while a lot of names were being thrown out back in those days, Hank was the guy who was kind of doing the lining up, getting everybody lined up, making the calls. And what happens is you don't see that. People don't know that. And to me, when you told me that you had been nominated, I was proud, I was like thinking to myself, because I know I'm not going. I know I'm not going to get nominated. It's just not in my space. But I really did. I was as excited as you were, and I really felt like this was for sure deserving. And I'm hoping that it is going to come to pass, but you're making a case for some of the names, and I want you to give some of those names that are on there because I'm going to challenge those names and say, I don't know if they were better than you.
Well, I mean, there were names on there like the Julius Peppers, the Feeney, those guys in their own right did something special for the game.
Yes, I'll give you that.
Dwight Feeney, I had the privilege of coaching him a little bit when I did some internship with Tony Dungy and John Tierley in Indianapolis, that kind of thing. Those guys were, like I said, it was just amazing to see that I was in that company. Even though those guys are way younger than I am, it was still it was an honor. It still is an honor because I think I'm gonna get some shirts made with that says Hall of Fame nominee on it, just so everybody understands.
Because everybody might not know, and you want to make sure that everybody knows.
Not nothing big, just maybe across the sleeve. Just across the sleeve, right there.
You were stupid, man. Well, okay, so I want to switch a little bit and ask you today's game from your view, because I've talked to a lot of former players just, either back in Minnesota or some of the trips that we take to Wisconsin or to North Dakota. I feel like everybody's in the same consensus of the game is different. It doesn't really look the same. I think our game during the time that we were playing, and I'm curious of what you think. It was, and maybe this is not, it doesn't justify it, but I know that safety has become an issue. But I think back in our day, when I don't know if safety was the key component, I think, the physicality was the key thing. When you look at the game, you see new linemen, you see the kind of the handcuffs that are put on them by hitting the quarterback. What do you think when you look at that?
Well, when I look at the game now, it's an evolution. The game, nothing's ever going to stay the same. It's going to be an evolution. It's like you said, the physical part of our game was the focal point for when we played the game. But because of that, the way we played the game and the way we enjoyed the game, we lost or we saw other people in our era that possibly didn't come out as well as you and I did, you know?
Yeah.
Because of the physicalness of it. So they had to make some adjustments and some changes to the game. But when you get into the actual playing of the game with things that are different, or you know, if we played a game and we had 75 snaps as a defensive unit, it was for certain, unless I was hurt, I took 70 snaps or 68 snaps.
Yeah.
There was not a rotation or a group with that was so conscious of how many plays, what are they doing, and I think it's because of some of the deterioration of players before them that they try to eliminate that for future players. But the way the game has changed as far as taking some of the physical, you know, the way they handcuff me from, you know, bumping a quarterback or giving them a little job afterwards, you know, that stuff builds character in my opinion. It just builds character for those quarterbacks because, you know, they had that, you know, silver spoon that, you know, they had that mantle that they're on. It knocked them down a bit, but not in a malicious way, but still fun. But the game has changed in being older. I can look at it and see, well, where and what the attempt is to make something that is so violent safe as well. It's like trying to make the gladiator game safe. You know, it's a violent sport.
Right.
And you can't try to, you can critique it or curb it a little, but you can't cut it out, or then you lose the whole premise of the game.
And see, and I kind of feel like we're at the. I feel like we're really close to doing that, because I don't know. Because to me, when I look in the secondary and I watch guys play, and just looking at them tackle, I mean, it looks horrible to me. You know, it's like when I look at the secondary and can't say everybody, but
yeah,
you know, I watch corners try to tackle, and it's like they're trying just not to get hurt. A lot of times,
you know what? In my opinion, even when I played, that's the way I thought about the corners anyhow. That's how the guys back there played it anyway.
I'm not sure the corners that you had were that way, but you know, whatever, you know, call it as you will.
Yeah.
So tell me, I want to go back. I want to come back. You coming into the league, there's Chris Dolman who's passed away. There's Keith Millard there, Al Noga's there. You come in as a nose guard, or nose tackle, I should say.
Yeah.
And we had some years with that group.
Well, yeah, Al came in later after me.
Yes.
So when I came in with Doug Martin.
Yeah, Doug Martin. There was a couple of other guys there too that I think the Vikings had brought in. Yes. The creation of our defense to the 87 season, 86, 87 season.
87, yeah.
The D-line was totally amazing and talented. Can you give the audience a kind of a snapshot of what each one of the players, because each one of our players were going for, trying to have the most sacks. You know, it was going to be one or two, one or three. They were going to be in those top three. Tell me how those players competed and how they competed against each other more so than anybody else in the league. Not to say there wasn't other great pass rushers, but our guys were just amazing.
Well, coming into to the Vikings as a rookie. I was fortunate enough to have played for a great technician teacher in Pete Jenkins when I was at LSU, and not even knowing it, but absorbing so much from him that when I got to the Minnesota Vikings, there were some lapses that I had become accustomed to doing, like drill-wise, what I needed to make me better for this week. I learned from Coach Jenkins at LSU. When I brought it to Minnesota and I didn't get it, I just went and got it on my own. We had a unique group where Chris Dolman and Keith Millard and myself became fast friends because Chris was not certain about putting his hand in the dirt. He thought he was a stand-up linebacker guy, and it was like, look, man, you got some speed, but your hips ain't turning. You can't cover no, but you come on down here in the dirt.
I can't even imagine him covering somebody.
Yeah, exactly. And I would tell him all the time, come on down, put your hand in the dirt. Let me show you how to have fun here. And Chris picked up from that with Keith and myself. And like I said, I came from a, very technical how to play the game. Because, look, this is probably the only time you're going to ever hear me say this, and I hope they're not recording it, but I wasn't the greatest of athletic people that were there. I have my quickness, my speed. I have some athleticism. But what in looking back in my game, what made my game different and better than any other nose tackle at that time was I was a technician. I mean, hand placement, how to explode, how to read a block. Those are the things I studied. I wasn't the strongest, fastest guy out on the field, but, I watched film. I studied like, oh, they're in that far eye formation. If that tango in motion, I know they're running the dive at me. Here we go. Bring it on. Come on. I'm not shooting towards it, but I know it's coming, You're not going to surprise me with it. That was my play. And as a group, I brought that part in. Keith and Chris had so much explosive talent off the ball, and Keith was so explosive in the three technique because, at that point, who ever heard of a 6'5", 6'6", three technique?
Right.
But he was there getting off on the ball, and what made us great was I was learning about the NFL, the sacks and all that. Keith was already a part of it. Dolman was just learning the joy of actually being a defensive end as opposed to an outside linebacker. And we just bonded over what I could bring, what they saw. And then when you throw in Doug Martin's veteran leadership over it, we just had a great group. And then when Doug leaves and Nova comes in, he's just hungry to be successful. It just made us, we competed in a group like one year we had 70-something sacks, and the defensive line had 60 of them. And we never competed like against one another. We wanted more than that guy got as a group, but as a unit, we wanted to be the best. We always said we wanted to set the standard. When every other team in the NFL look at defensive linemen, we wanted to be the standard they were shooting to be.
So,
period.
So when you go back, when you look at the Purple People Eaters and that legacy, where now do you feel like that group, your group, where do they sit? Where do you because I can, most people now who are not old enough to know the Purple People Eaters,
right? When
they think about the Minnesota Vikings and they think about the defensive line, to me, I'm thinking they're thinking that group right there.
Well, when you think of the Purple People, we sit as my group were. We sit very comfortable, close second behind those. because those guys revolutionized
Yes.
rushing the passer.
Yes.
They made it different than anybody else the way they played the game. And back then, everybody wanted to be no one wanted to give the purple people, the guys up front, they're just dudes. They always attributed the success that they had because they were accustomed to playing in the cold weather. But they will kick your butt no matter where you were at.
Yeah, cold or not. It didn't make any difference. Okay, so you're putting our group, your D-line, second, which is fair.
Yeah.
Ranking
those guys inspired us to be what we were. And I believe we took what they did and took it to another level where every other team in the league wanted to play the way we played, but there were those that said, oh, they don't play with any discipline. And it's like, oh, we're disciplined. We're disciplinedly kicking the crap out of your offensive line.
But I think part of that, don't you think that comes with the scheme? I mean, we're playing man to man, and you guys are just going. It could have looked like, playground ball, but everybody had a role, and we had like everybody that was in a spot was perfect for the spot.
Well, that's exactly right. When people look at us and said, oh, their defensive line is just running up the field.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
They're only doing that because they got those guys in the back that can play man coverage. But you guys played man coverage because we could run up the field because we know how to get the pressure on the guy.
Right, and to anybody who is a football coach, anybody who is a D lineman or defensive back or linebacker, hear what he's saying, because at the end of the day, the defense, I can't get interceptions. I can't knock balls down. I can't be a Pro Bowler. I can't be all of those kinds of things if I don't have some guys up front that can put pressure. And Hank, I can remember a number of times you guys turning around saying, hey, just hold them just a little bit longer. We're almost there.
Exactly.
I remember Dole saying it a zillion times. Keith saying it. Always so. And we were like, okay, we're trying. And we didn't have a problem. We never had a problem of a distinction of the need that you had for that other position.
Yes.
And I think that's a critical piece of having a good defense, is that you don't break up. You have to stay connected. You have to realize, as a DB, you need everybody that's in front of you to play well. If you're up front, you need everybody in the background to play good. And if you can get that as a whole, that's a good football team. That's a good defensive football team.
Well, the thing about it, too, that people don't get when they try to say that we were undisciplined, we were on this, we were on that, you can't say it. You can say it and show examples of where they're undisciplined, but in each one of those years, you can't, the facts don't line up, because this group was always 1-2 in defense. They're the top, in the top three tiers every year in defense. That's not undisciplined. That's playing excited, put together defensive football.
How many people did we put in the Pro Bowl in '87?
Oh my goodness!
I mean, it was a lot.
It was a lot, because I remember that was my rookie year, and I was like, "There's none of the guys that are in there at the tackle position have numbers better than me. What's
Right.
what's happening?
Right.
What's happening?"
Right.
But we put 87 and 88 and 89. We put a ton of people in the Pro Bowl.
And again, part of that, to me, is coaches knowing what your guys can do. I mean, you had Floyd Peters, I had Pete Carroll, and everybody may not know Floyd Peters, but And you can talk about him because he deserves his due. But in the secondary, learning how to play man-to-man, I'm learning that from now what we know, probably the best defensive back coach in history.
Exactly.
Okay? So as good as I thought I was, I learned it from a coach that taught it to so many other – I don't think he ever taught it to anybody who did not have success. So you got to kind of blame that on the coach.
You got to blame because everywhere he went.
Everywhere he went, yes.
Yeah.
And so, again, a lot of people don't know the name Floyd Peters. But give them a description of how if you were going to introduce him, how would you introduce him? Because Floyd was a different kind of character. I don't know if parents he could never be a high school coach, and maybe not even a college coach, because you do something wrong, you're going to hear it.
He's going to let you know. And the thing about when we played for Floyd had a very good understanding of what he wanted to see out of his defense.
Yep.
How his defense was supposed to look and what was, because I honestly believe that I got the starting job 2 weeks into the training camp because they had no intentions of making me the starter. But if you remember that rookie year, Tim Newton came in a little heavy. He came in a little heavy that year, and to give him a little slap on the wrist, throw that rookie in there. Well, that rookie could play.
And hold on, let me clarify it to the folks. Tim Newton was a great player.
Yeah.
But there was an expectation of weight when you needed to come back in. You needed to come in at a certain weight. They had a weight for him to come in at. And he did not come in at the proper weight. And all of a sudden what happens is they're like, okay, we'll go with the rookie.
So they put me in to give him a little slap on the wrist to say, hey, we'll play this rookie. But it was the second day of me being the starter, because they had no intentions of me being the starter. They just wanted to get him motivated. But I never forget, we had a blitz call. The tight end, Steve Jordan, gets up, switches sides, the strength change, and I'm over there biting my lip till it bleeds because I know, because I've already studied, we got to Omaha out of this blitz. And the veteran linebacker, Studwell, is not saying it. And I yell out, Omaha, Omaha. And Studwell and I get into it because I'm not supposed to be making no calls. And Floyd comes in.
And you're a rookie.
And I'm a rookie. And comes in and says, son, he's right. We got to get out of this. We can't, and I think that was the day I became the starter. For real. Because I knew I studied. It was my role into Minnesota was, I'll take you back to my draft day. It's me, two other guys had signed with the same agent. These two guys were both from A&M. I think it was Roger Vick and Johnny Holland.
I remember Johnny Holland.
Yes, from Green Bay. Mm-hmm. We partied. We hung out together that whole week. Just having a great time in Houston. Draft day comes. First round. Jets pick Roger Vick, running back. Phone rings. Oh, plane, come on up. Press conference, blah, 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 blah. He gone. Second round come around. Phone ring. Johnny Holland, Green Bay. Press conference, come on up. We're going to have it, blah, blah, blah. He's gone. Third round comes on. The coverage cuts off. I'm sitting around there by myself now, like, guess I'm gonna go home. Then the phone rings. Minnesota Vikings. You've been drafted by the Vikings. I get on the phone. They were like,
"Who called you?
We'll see you
Who called you? Who called you?"
Jerry Burns.
Burnsy. Okay.
Burnsy called, and so I'm waiting for the come up press conference. Blah blah blah. Nah, we'll see you at minicamp. So when I go to minicamp, this is how obscure. Because I was the last. I think I was the last player in the third round pick.
All right, hold that thought right there. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll come right back. Okay? So hold your thought there. Okay.
Let's Talk with Carl Lee is presented by attorney Frank Walker. Real talk, real experience, real results. FrankWalkerLaw.com. Comment on episodes, ask Carl and Hollis questions, or suggest topics at our Facebook page. Search for Let's Talk with Carl Lee, and remember to like the page to become part of the conversation.
Let's face it, bad things happen to good people. Seriously injured in a car accident, trucking accident, or even wrongfully arrested. Life happens, and when it happens to you, you will need sound legal advice and aggressive representation. That's when you call attorney Frank Walker at 304-413-0179. That's 304-413-0179. Lock it in your phone, text it to a friend. 304-413-0179. Or visit online at attorneyfrankwalker.com.
Find previous episodes of Let's Talk at WCHSnetwork.com/Let's Talk. This is Let's Talk with Carl Lee. Now, back to the conversation.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back from the break, and I have my buddy and former teammate Henry Hank Thomas on the show today. And Hank, pick up from where you left off.
All right, not a problem. I came in, like I said, I might have been the last player picked in the third round, but the coverage, it's the first time I had coverage. So nobody flew out to New York or wherever they were having. There was none of that. So the Jerry Burns called. They put me on the phone with him. I'm like, oh, I'm excited. I can't wait. And I'm thinking there's going to be a press conference like the other guys. No, we'll see you at minicamp. So I was like, okay, great. I show up at minicamp. There's nobody there to pick me up at the airport. You know, I'm looking for guys with – it's not hard to spell Henry Thomas. I'm looking for a guy with a card that says Henry Thomas. And I'm looking all over for it, and I don't see it. I'm looking for stuff that says Minnesota Vikings. I see a lot of that with all the fans, people walking around, but nothing that says, you need to come with us. So I'm standing on the corner, and I see a cabbie. That's right, there was no Ubers back then. There was no cell phones back then. Don't judge me, people. I know
You're old. You're old.
I'm old. I remember when there was not cell phones, so stop it. And no internet. Anyway, so I walk up to the cabbie, and anybody who knows me, knows anything about me, I am probably the biggest Prince fan there is. And the cab driver said, and all I knew about Minnesota was Prince.
Yeah.
So the cab driver said, where do you want to go? I said, well, how far is First Avenue? He says, just downtown. You can, come on, I'll take you. He takes me to First Avenue. The door is open. And let me explain to people. First Avenue used to be a bus depot before it became a club. And there was a door on the side that was open where the guy stopped, and I kind of peeked in. And somebody said, hey, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, I'm Minnesota Vikings, and I was just peeking. I'm fan of them. And he goes, well, come on in. Let me show you around. Show me around. Show me the thing. Come back out. The cabbie's still there. He's looking at me. He was like, where you want to go? I said, do you know where the Vikings practice? He goes, yeah, Winter Park. I'll take you. So he takes me down there. And I'll never forget, because that day I had $133 in my pocket.
You probably spent all that up.
It was $73, and I gave him $85. And when I walked into the building, the first person I see is Jerry Burns, and he lit into me. Where the hell you been? Practice is going. You step. And I was like, Coach, there was nobody there to pick me up. I don't know. I had to take the cab. He goes, you took the cab? I was like, yeah. And I handed him my receipt. And he saw that $85 and he goes, what are you, stupid? And I was like, what? I don't know where I was going because, the guy charged me for the whole round trip.
Oh, absolutely. And the time you were he was waiting on you.
Yeah. And look, and he took the receipt. He goes, looks at the receipt. He goes, $85? What are you, stupid? And he turns to the secretary. He goes, make sure he gets his money. Get your so-and-so downstairs and get to your meeting. And that meeting is where they hand me a yellow 3-ring binder with the defensive stuff in it.
Yep.
And that afternoon, I took that binder, opened it up, and copied all the pages for the defensive line stuff and the blitzes. And I put it in my bag. And from that week of training camp which was in May, till we came back in August, I studied all that. I mean, I had my mom in the driveway being the linebacker saying, baby, I think you went the wrong way. I said, what you say? It say Ram right here, but you supposed to go that way. I mean, I studied.
Okay.
When I got to training camp, that first 2 weeks of installation, man, that was like nothing to me. So it looked like I retained stuff quickly, but I cheated a little. That's all.
Okay. So I want to switch gears because I want to switch to that piece of learning the playbook, learning what to do, working out to do. Know what the calls, know when the call's coming, what you're supposed to do, knowing how to make that call, knowing the offense, knowing the strength, knowing all that kind of stuff. Because for all the players, high school players, collegiate players, middle school players, youth players, and your parents, what you have to understand, if your goal is to be a D1 football player, if your goal is to be an NFL player, you need to understand that if you thought algebra 2, geometry, all that kind of stuff was difficult, football without studying is virtually impossible as you go up the ladder. And explain and again, terminology, formations, all of those kinds of things. Those things matter. You have to know. You have to know right now, if this guy moves, you're going to do this. You can't wait and think somebody's going to tell you. They may tell you, but you got to know that stuff on your own. I think that piece, the physical piece of being in shape and the mental piece that comes with playing D1 ball, and I'm not saying it's not there for D2 or any of that, but basically to play football, to learn it when you get away from, the simplicity of it, you're talking about stuff that makes no sense. You could get a call. You may be able to give us a call, Hank. I don't know if I can remember all the calls, but if you give me a call, you got to know all that.
Well, yeah, you have to know all that, because the thing that helped me a lot was understanding
what you were doing,
what I was doing, and what the offense was doing.
Yes,
because so many teams, when we broke down film, in my mind, when I break a film down, here's their favorite formation. Let's say it's strong eye left or whatever. Let's say it's strong eye. My thing was, how many plays have they run out of this? And what are their top 3 plays? Okay, let's go to far eye. How many plays have they run out of this? And what are their top 3 plays? So once I get there, when I see a wrinkle to it, You can't beat me. I know where you're going. I haven't, and I'm not gonna cheat to that. But you're not gonna beat me to that either.
Okay, and here, so for me, playing corner, my film study was really simple. I wanted to know what routes you ran and what routes you didn't run. Because if you didn't run a route, if you haven't run a post corner, I'm not worried about if you look like you run in the post, you run in the post. Because you ain't never run a post corner. If you run that post corner, you got me.
Once.
And once. Exactly. And so the study for me was just to try to figure out what routes do they not run. Because now I know if you take an outside release, there's only a few routes you can run. You run a takeoff, come back, that's about, or just maybe an out. But in most cases, you got to get inside to run a curl. You got to get inside to run an in. You got to, all that kind of stuff and then that made it so simple to me playing man to man that all I needed to do was try to figure out where you started, wherever you're going to release. I already know where you're going.
Okay. See, there lies for us what the studying of film is. Because as you remember, on Fridays was a short day for us.
Yep.
But the D-line, after practice, we always met as a group. We find one another for low missed tackles. We find each other. We find our defensive line group in 6 packs of beer. You got 2 loafs last week. You owe a 12-pack. You had a missed tackle. You owe this. So when Friday came, we got out of practice around 1. But the D-line never left until about 3 because we would go and, that beer that we taxed ourselves, we would drink and watch film. I mean, we would go so far as to requesting the network coverage of the games just so we can get a rhythm of the cadence, that kind of thing.
Do you remember the committee? We'd have the committee meetings where and what the committee was it was a group of players that would evaluate each player, and if you didn't do well, you didn't play well, you made some mistakes, basically you had to buy all the drinks that night.
That's right.
and
That's right.
and you couldn't and no matter what anybody said about your play that week. So like if Hank were to say, Carl, man, you ain't give us nothing this week. I mean, you just didn't do nothing. You might as well have not even been out there. If I get mad at Hank and now we're gonna start talk about trying to go to blows, I gotta beat up the whole crew.
Right.
And that's when you think about a team, when you think about the expectations that your teammates have for you,
right?
That speaks volumes. Because I knew that there's no way that Hank is not going to be in the game. There's no way he's not going to make plays. There's no way Dole's not going to make plays. No way Mal's not going to make plays. And that's going to help me. So I can't afford one of them not to be at their best, because now if they're not at their best, I can't play.
Right. Well, the thing about it is, too, is that I think our group has from all the other groups that I played with, because I'm not that, regardless of what Carl says, I'm not that big boisterous guy.
Oh, my gosh. What are you saying? What are you saying?
But in the group when I was in Minnesota, the thing was, when somebody said something about your play, you got angry. But you kept that anger in, and you used that anger to correct. Even if you disagreed.
Yes.
You had to go back and actually look to see, and if it wasn't right, it was like, hey, I don't see what you're saying. Show me here. You can go and say it, but you curbed that anger enough to make yourself go and at least evaluate your own play in the mirror to yourself. And that held everyone accountable in our group.
And I think parents and I think young kids today, you have to be honest with yourself, because you may not, or parent has to be honest with the child has to be honest with the parent, and you got to say, am I putting in the work? I'm talking about I want to play college ball. I talk about I want to be a great high school player. I want to be a great middle school player. What work are you putting in? Because at the end of the day, the work that you put in is going to get you the results that you want. I can talk about Pro Bowl all day long.
Right.
But I got to put work in order to do that. And the one thing I can think, I don't know of any of our top players through that 87, 88, or I don't think any of those guys ever came to camp out of shape.
Let me sum up our 87 year in a nutshell. Our 87 year, we get
all right, let me just say this. I have another motive behind the 87 year too, but I'm curious to see what you say first.
Okay, here it is. We get locked out by the owners. And I'm a rookie, so I don't know any better. I'm going to get my money. And that group was like, no, you're not going to be a scab player. You're going to stay here with us. Has a group at least 3 times a week, and we were locked out for 4 weeks, I believe.
Yep.
At least 3 times a week, we met as a team and practiced.
By ourselves.
That summed up our 87 playoff run right there.
Okay, so, and I'm 100% agree with that. Here was the other thing. So my point's not really the 87 season. Mine's going to be the 88 season, I guess.
Uh-huh.
Because what was interesting to me was all the players whose contract was up that year.
Uh-huh.
Do you remember that? Like, so when 87 came around, or when 88,
I signed a 1-year deal as a rookie because I couldn't get
what you want.
Like I said, nobody cared for what the hell I was going to do, and here I am as a rookie. I start the whole season.
And you probably had some kind of incentive, some kind of number of plays, number of quarters.
Nope.
No percent.
None of that. Had no idea. That was the first agent. He was just all about the dollars. Second agent. Oh yeah, it was good then.
Yeah. And see, and what was interesting to me was that everybody was out trying to get their money, and so from 87 to 88, in that 88 year, off season of 87, or even during the season, trying to get signed, with Mike Lynn was really a super challenge, to get $1 from him. I felt like there was an opportunity to divide the team, because everybody thought that they should be high paid. They should be paid, and did nobody want to be the low guy on the pay scale, because think about that team, bro. Everybody played well.
Right.
And now you got to sign all of those guys, basically almost. And I truly think, Hank, that it was the whole entire defense had to have been up for contract.
Yeah, because my rookie year, I signed a 1-year deal. Because
I was up. I was in an option year. So
see, well, as you look at it, back then the option year was just another way of them handcuffing you.
Yes.
Because there was no true option.
Yes. What was the option?
Exactly. There was no option. It's like, well, we own your option. Well, even then, let's say I played so well as a rookie, I can't get a contract done. I was not allowed to go to another team.
Yeah, all those things were those opportunities did not exist at all back then.
And those are the things that's another part of the evolution of the game I talk about. We fought so hard for it. Even when I didn't understand it, I followed the lead of the veteran guys.
Say that again. That again. That's important.
I followed the lead of the veteran guys. That's something you do not have anymore in the NFL. Because if you I played for 14 years for 3 different teams. Take all of my contracts, and I had decent contracts, add them all up, will not equate to one of a contract of a guy,
today.
4-year guy, 5-year guys today. It will not equate to that. But that's the evolution of the game. But as the game evolves, it's lost something in veteran leadership. Because a veteran now is 7 years, 8 years?
Yeah, I mean, when I came in and there was, Fred McNeil, Matt Blair, those guys were hangovers from Purple People Leaders. Because I want to say, those guys probably had, 11, 12, 13 years. Matt, I don't know how long Matt played. Yeah. But those guys had been there for a long time. And when they would say something, you would do it. There's no question. And the reality hang too of if they tell you to go do something, you ain't asking them why. You ain't challenging them. You're not talking about, I'm a grown man. I'm not doing that. You would do that out of respect. And I think and I think that piece of it is gone because today if I'm drafted first round, second round, third round, I'm getting super money. I'm getting guaranteed super money. I'm coming in like I'm the dude.
Well, and the thing about that is nowadays you leaving college making,
Yeah, you'd have made a couple mil. You'd have made a couple mil.
You made a couple mil, and if you're somebody that's going to be drafted high, you probably made 5 or 6 mil already.
Yeah. How does that player come in and going to listen to me and you as veterans? Why is he going to listen to us? He don't need us.
Exactly.
But back in the day, that was law and order. And when Bud was there, when Bud was there, I dare you to act like you're not going to listen to a vet.
Oh yeah, you're going to be on the team. Right?
Oh yeah, you're not going to make the team. I don't care who you are, how good you are. If a vet tells you to do something, and you know how they used to do, I don't want to call it hazing, but you'd have to take their helmets and shoulder pads and carry them in or whatever. If they gave you the helmet and told you to carry it in, you better carry it in.
Okay. I'm going to stop you on that.
Well, now, I'll say this. As it got forward, as those guys were loyal to it, I wasn't necessarily loyal to it because I wasn't interested in trying to make anybody do anything anyway. I didn't like doing anything, so I wasn't going to put that on somebody else. Again, that's the evolution of that happening and not happening.
How the game changes. You're right. It's like at that point, I always carried Doug Martin's pads in with my pads, but as a rookie, I wanted to make the team, so I did all I could. So I was put on the punt return and the kickoff team. Okay. One practice, everybody's hurt. So now I'm the starting nose tackle. But I'm a rookie, so that means I have to do the scout team stuff for the offense.
Yep. I know all about that too.
Kickoff and punt return always seem to be on the same freaking day. So I was on both
Don't
of
be
those.
mad. Don't be mad because you had to do all that running. I had to do it. I was right there with you.
And that day, everybody's hurt, so I got to do everything. And after practice, we got to run gassers. And for those of you who don't know what a gasser is, that's when you, from across the field, you run across the field touch, across the field touch, across the field touch.
And back.
And it was a time limit that you had to do that. So you always had 3 of those after practice. And after a particular practice, when everybody was hurt on the defense, except me, I should have pulled something to fake the injury, but I was young and green, didn't know any better. And there was another guy who had been on the team for 4 or 5 years, never started, played all of 10 or 12 plays. Don't know why he's still on the team. Told me to carry his pads.
I know who you're talking about.
Yes, we played the same. We played this, both played D-line. And so my response to him was to kick his pads as hard as I could, as far as I could. And we began to rumble.
That's the bad thing, man. Is like you got to know. Like, you got to know who you're going to try to, who you're going and I'll just call it hazing, who you're going to try to haze, who you're going to try to get to carry your pads. Come on. You can't, if you, and I know, like I said, I know exactly who you're talking about, and come on, man. Bro, you got to carry your own pads.
You've been on the team for 4 to 5 years. I've been on the team for all of 12 days, and I'm the starter, and you're going to tell me to carry your pads? Let me tell you something.
Those stories there are really the interesting pieces to the ego of an athlete that's on a pro team.
Well, see, that's another thing. There's that fine line between fun hazing and bullying.
Yes. His was more like a bully.
Yeah. And I was not, after all that, I was not in the mood for it. And I never forget Floyd Peterson saying, you got that much energy for fighting, man. I should run you some more.
So we're gonna wrap it up here in just a second. But what I want from you, Hank, is if there's the athlete or the parent that's out there that's wanting to be good, wanting to ultimately get to that D1 level, wants to maybe play a professional sport, because it doesn't really make any difference, because everything to get to the professional level, everything requires the same type of thing. So give those folks, because I've said it 1,000 times, and I'm curious to how you may say it, and then we'll wrap the show.
All right, for me to be, if you want to be that top athlete, first and foremost, you got to enjoy it. If it's work, anytime you leave the house to go lift weights and it seems like work, anytime you leave the house to go run or do sprints or the stadium or the stairs, it feels like work. It doesn't feel like fun. It's just something that you do. You're going to have a problem. If it feels like work and it's not enjoyable, you're not going to put in the time and the effort that it's required to accomplish what you want. If you get the same, let me take that back. Not the same joy, because I didn't get the same joy out of running. When I went and ran, there was a joy there. There was something I was looking forward to doing. Even though in my mind back then, I didn't equate it back to that. I was getting ready for the things I did in NFL, but it was a part of something I enjoy doing. If you don't put in the work
and you don't find joy in putting in the work, you're not going to accomplish the things that you want to do. And you're going to get to the point where you're going to, if you put in the work and it seems like a grind or actual work, when you get to that, almost to that threshold, you're going to have a breakdown. You're going to lose it. Enjoy what you're doing and work hard at it. That's all I got to say about it.
And I'll say this. I know working out myself, when I worked out, getting ready for camp, like it wasn't hard. It wasn't hard to go to get up early in the morning and do it because I knew I had to do it.
Exactly.
Because I knew somebody was going to be coming into the Vikings, to Marshall, to South Charleston High School, that was going to want to play my position.
Yeah.
And I was not going to take that. I was not going to take that chance to give somebody a chance to be in better shape than I was. I wanted to be in the best shape of anybody that was possible on the team. That was my goal. But that, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you can take that bit of advice from Hank. And Hank, I truly do appreciate you coming on, man. And I'm sure we'll do it again. So I do truly appreciate you, man.
Hey, anytime you need me, come in, fill in, do something. Yeah, you want me to sit in for you, you know, I'll do that too. But you got to make sure you got that. Because, you know, I'm surprised at myself I didn't ask, were we doing a podcast or a radio show? Because, you know, podcast, I'm a little looser. But,
well, this is a podcast. You could have been a little bit looser.
Okay, I didn't want to, you know. I had a couple of F-bombs that hit the top of the roof of my mouth, and I had to hold them back, you know. But I appreciate it, and anytime you need me, you know I love you, and I'm there for you no matter what. So it's been a real pleasure, and I hope to see you in September. We're going up for Alumni Weekend.
Yeah, I'm planning to go to Alumni Weekend, yeah.
All right, I'm in.
All right, man. I appreciate you.
All right, man. I'll get you soon.
Okay.
Peace.
All righty. All right, and I want to give one more shout out to Frank Walker. Let's Talk with Carl Lee is sponsored by Frank Walker, and real talk, real experience, real results. For more information, go to frankwalkerlaw.com. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate it, and I hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll be back again.
Let's Talk with Carl Lee is presented by attorney Frank Walker. Real talk, real experience, real results. frankwalkerlaw.com. Comment on episodes, ask Carl and Hollis questions, or suggest topics at our Facebook page. Search for Let's Talk with Carl Lee, and remember to like the page to become part of the conversation.
If you fall, dust it off and get back up on your feet. Anything could be a win, yup, even defeat. They say sugar bad for you, why is victory sweet? Couldn't play with big kids, I had to sit in the street and watch from a distance, but over time I grew. If I put in the work, in no time I'm due. Everything that I worked and prayed, I'm okay. If you ask me, how did I do it, I'm gon' say, you gotta work, grind, shine, it's mine. Gotta show everybody it's my time. Getting in, you gotta work, grind, shine, never mind who talking down, cause they lying. Don't talk, you gotta work. 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 You gotta work.